Apple will reportedly fund Apple exclusive podcasts. Apple execs have reportedly reached out to media companies. So did you know that we're a media company, Will?
Are we?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, okay.
We're a media company, and Apple, they reached out. They offered us $12 million to exclusively release this show only on Apple devices.
Sounds lucrative.
That's right.
Did you sign the deal?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is
we
the last.
belong to Apple.
So this is the last episode that's going to be on YouTube. Okay, you understand? And not only is it going to be an Apple exclusive podcast, it will only be available on Apple devices from now on, and it will only be available on Apple devices inside of the Apple Store. So this is anyway. Listen. There's a war going on, a battle going on in the podcast arena because podcasting, it exploded. And for the longest time, it was just this kind of like side gig for Apple. They're like, I don't know, we got podcasts. Who cares? It kind of like developed slowly and over time. And it was just this appendage to the iPod, hence the pod part of the podcast. And they never really paid much attention to it. I mean, there's reviews, and other than that, it's just tapping into the RSS, and you get the uploads and all the rest of it. But then, I feel like right now, they're starting to appreciate the potential of, like, years later, of what podcasting represents, because other players have gotten involved and like, wait, maybe we could have done more there. Those other players being places like Spotify, who are actually... They recently bought 2 podcast networks. They're like purchasing podcasts. Apple wants to get into that business. And it makes a lot of sense for Apple because 50% of podcasts are actually consumed via Apple Podcasts. It's still the location for podcasts, which makes sense because it was the original place for that because of the iPod and then the iPhone and the fact that it gave birth to the podcast as we know it. So the rumor here is that they're going to go spend how much money, Will?
Sorry, I'm just reading up on...
No, it's a boatload, Will. It's a boatload, sir. Yeah, you see, you did so well earlier, and then you missed it on this one. Kirk knew, though. Kirk had a smirk on his face when I asked you.
I got distracted here.
No, he knew. But anyway, they're going to spend a lot of money. Spotify, for example, announced earlier this year it plans to spend $500 million on podcast-related
what I was trying to
acquisitions. No, I understand. Well, it's all right. It's all right, dude. There's going to be other chances. You can get another shot at it.
Okay.
By the way, I feel the need to clarify. They offered us nothing, by the way. They don't want this podcast. I speak too freely. You know this. Apple this, Apple that. It don't matter. You understand? I feel like they probably like to bury us already on the pod. You know what I'm saying, Will?
Yeah.
They don't want to put us on those charts.
Our charts, the charts are rigged.
Yeah, I think the chart, they don't want guys like us on there. Speaking freely, dangerous words. Yeah. Guys like us. Loose cannons. Mm-hmm. How they describe guys like us.
Black
internally
sheep.
In the boardroom. That's what they say about us. So anyhow, one way to get around that, just like they're doing in TV with Apple TV Plus, Apple News, whatever, get in, spend some cash. Buy some stuff. And then you can kind of govern what gets promoted. You can shape the conversation to a certain degree when you have ownership in those departments, and that's what they're aiming at by the looks of it. It's a new move, Apple becoming a content company, a services company, moving a little further away from the origin story. See, the podcasts for them were a bonus for the hardware for the longest time. Now, a business focus by the looks of it. And I should mention this article, a nice little article here, by the way, on The Verge, which details some other things happening in podcasting, including a premium podcast service called Luminary, which launched this spring. They had a bunch of celebrities come in there with a free trial, and the concept was that you would then subscribe for a monthly fee after that, and these would be premium podcasts. And they wouldn't have to be ad supported because there's ads in podcasts that you would have a subscription model work within podcasts. That's another take on where podcasts could potentially go, and they've kicked off and they're operating. So podcasts are a real thing. The monetization landscape obviously set to change. $500 million being spent on Spotify. Apple could drop $500 million, not even notice. They dropped $500 million walking down the street. They wouldn't even notice. Well,
Do you think that these companies will have control over the podcast?
No.
What they're gonna say?
No, because you remember the rumors that came out around the Apple TV Plus stuff? The rumors were like, Apple's coming in here, they're cutting the raunchy scenes and they're cutting the violence.
Yeah.
They're like, it's not very Apple-esque. It can't be, Will. I'll tell you why. They're still trying to sell you a dream. They're trying to sell you the Apple logo. They're trying to sell you the white store with the wood desk. They still got to sell you the device, so they got to be kind of generic in their presentation. You can't make too many strong statements without offending the wrong people.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like they're gonna actually censor.
Of course they would. It's their
yeah.
content. They would choose what they think is entertaining enough, but still best represents the brand and isn't going to compromise them in any way. Because you can imagine they make some risky content. It's not like they're HBO. They're still Apple. So if you put the Apple badge on it, people start to associate that risky stuff with the brand.
Right.
And those two things don't go too well together, much like advertiser-friendly content on YouTube. You start getting too risky, and whether it's compelling content or not, advertisers are like, look, it might be good content, but we just can't be associated, because the association in and of itself changes the perception of the actual thing. So all of a sudden you watch some violent thing that Apple made, you get negative feelings, whatever, risky feelings, whatever, you're not super comfortable. Then subconsciously you see that same badge, that same name on a nice, shiny device, and you might bring that sentiment forward with you. It might be embedded within you. They try to keep their distance when things get a bit sketchy. This is why content companies are content companies, and they're typically not trying to sell you hardware for the most part. Anyhow, interesting nonetheless. And the one takeaway here is it kind of insinuates that that podcasting as a platform is undervalued right now. Undervalued in the sense that the biggest players, Apple being one of them, Spotify being one of them, are looking to get into it. So that goes to show you that it's a big deal. It's on the come up, which seems crazy this long after they originally launched. It seems kind of crazy.